Post-processing allows to customize the overall appearance of the entire scene or a specific section using a variety of options. The scene can have several post-process volumes at once, which will determine the settings and appearance of different areas of the scene. For example, you can set up separately each room in the project using different post-processing volumes. Each section of the scene can also have different graphics quality settings. With the help of post-process volume, you can adjust the gamma, rendering method, and its quality. You can set up global illumination, perform color correction, and use various effects such as bloom and lens flare. Post-processing is a powerful tool that will allow you to fine-tune the visual part of the project. Now let's take a look at how it works in practice. Use the Quick Add tool. Volumes. Post-process volume. Increase the size using the Scale tool. The Details panel has a lot of options. Let's look at the most important and commonly used parameters. The Lens tab contains properties and settings that show the effects of a real lens. Depth of field, bloom, exposure, chromatic aberration, simulation of real camera settings, lens flare, and others. Color grading contains tool for deep color correction. This tool is similar to working with color balance in Photoshop. Global illumination is responsible for the method and quality calculation of the global illumination. Depending on the selected method, detailed settings will be available below. Reflection. This tab is responsible for the method and quality settings of reflection in the scene. There are many options here depending on the chosen method. Path tracing is a rendering method similar to Corona and vray. This is the most accurate and longest rendering method. Post-process volume settings allows you to set the blending options for multiple intersecting post-process volumes. Next, we will use the post-process volume capabilities to set up the project. Let's go back to the color grading tab. Choose Global. Activate saturation. I will set the value to 0. Let's move inside the volume. As you can see, when the camera is inside the volume, the set settings affect the scene. This volume can affect the entire scene regardless of its size. To do this, you need to find and activate the infinite extend parameter. Now the camera is outside the volume, but volume settings still work. Disable it. Create another smaller volume and place it inside. For the new volume, set the default saturation to 1. When the camera enters a small new volume, its values are applied. Each volume has its own mixing priority. By default, it is 0 for all. They have the same weight relative to each other. Change the mixing priority of the first large volume to 1. Since the priority of a large volume is higher than of the small volume, when the camera enters a small volume, the large volume settings continue to be affected. When you create a volume that will be inside the main volume, I recommend setting it to a higher priority than the main one. In this case, the first large volume should be left at 0, and the small one should be set to 1. Delete all volumes and create a new one. This will be the volume responsible for setting up the outdoor space of the scene. Activate Infinite Extent. Leave the priority value at 0. In the Lens tab, activate Bloom. Enable Method and Intensity. Now the sun looks more natural. Change the method from Standard to Convolution. I like it more. Lens Flare tab. Activate Intensity. Decrease value to 0.1. Now the flare effect looks less intense. You can see that auto exposure is now activated. It creates the effect of adaptation of the eye when moving from areas with different illumination. The work of automatic exposure is too noticeable. Let's improve it. Find Exposure tab. Speed up and speed down. Set the maximum value. Now the effect is almost invisible. This completes the post-process volume setting for the exterior. I'll be back later for a more detailed setup. Let's move on to setting up the post-process volume inside the house. For convenient work, switch to a view from 4 sides. Copy the created volume and place it inside so that it covers most of the room space. Rename and place the post-process volumes in a new folder. Turn off Infinite Extent. Use Search for quick access to settings. Change the priority to 1 so that these volume settings take precedence over the outside volume. Go to Lens tab and lower the bloom intensity to 0.2. Lens flare to 0. Now the room is filled with blue haze. This is the fog effect. To fix it, go to Exponential High Fog settings. Find and increase the value of start distance up to 2000. This value is responsible for the starting point of the fog relative to the player's camera. For the interior, I will use different sun settings. This will allow me to choose a more advantageous position and fill the interior with natural light. Duplicate sun sky. Give a name. Sun sky interior. Then turn off the visibility of the first sun sky. Set a new position of the sun. I want to add more natural fill light. This can be done in 2 ways. The first way is to increase the indirect lighting intensity of the directional light. Go Sun Sky, Directional Light, Indirect lighting intensity. Set the value to 12. But with this parameter you need to be very careful because of the appearance of artifacts. That's why I prefer the second way. The second way is to increase the intensity of the skylight. Switch to skylight and turn up the intensity. I will set up value to 3. This is a not bad solution for filling rooms with natural light. Go back to the post-process volume settings for the interior. Open the Exposure tab. Activate metering mode and exposure compensation. Exposure compensation set to 1.6. The room got brighter. Now I need to lower the brightness of the sun highlights. To do this, I will use Local Exposure tab. Activate Highlight Contrast Scale and lower it to 0.5. That's better. There is still overexposure from the sun, but there are no materials in the scene, so I leave it like that for now. Light quality looks bad now. The light flickers. That can be fixed by increasing the quality of the Lumion Global Illumination. Go to the Global Illumination tab. Method Lumen. Lumen Scene Lighting Quality 2. Lumen Scene Detail 4. Final Gather Quality 2. Flickering is less. I can make it even better. Manually set the value to 4. Try 6. 6 is the best value. See how realistic the shadows look. Flickering has disappeared. But remember that increasing the quality makes each frame more expensive for the system. I like the way the light looks. There are small areas where there are no post-process volume. They also need to be filled out. I will do this later, after finish working with materials.